It's Paul Marsh here on Express, and I'm delighted to say that I'm joined by mental health expert Noel McDermott. Noel, thank you very much for joining me. I really do appreciate it.
Thanks for having me back on. I'm glad I didn't annoy you last time I saw you.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Well, of course, it is the opening throes of the summer holidays. It's that time of the year when it's kind of 50-50. Half of you absolutely can't wait to get out and do things with the kids, and then the other half is going, oh no, this is going to be a nightmare. How am I going to keep them entertained for 6 whole weeks?
Yeah, quite.
And of course, it is, especially as we live in England and we don't always have fantastic weather. It, sorry. It is very easy for us to turn on the TV or a tablet or a computer or whatever and say, off you go.
Yeah.
It's very easy to do that. And, let's face it, we're all guilty at some point of going, I really have to get on with this work. I really have to do the washing up, whatever it is.
Yeah.
If you go and watch a film, we're all guilty of doing that. But of course, having online boundaries is really, really important for children, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's the first thing I would say is that the sort of any sort of clinical type problems that exist from online gaming and stuff like that is fairly small, to be honest. So parents shouldn't be too worried about it. So, for example, the specialist service the NHS has for gaming disorders over 2019, they've had less than 1,000 referrals, and that's during the pandemic. So out of 17.5 million kids in the UK, that's, do you know what I mean? It's a small number. For those that it does affect negatively, it's quite serious. But for most of us, and this is most of the people listening to this at the moment, your kids are not in that league and they're never going to be in that league. So don't panic is the first thing I would say. Most of the issues we get are more, like you say, on the social, behavioral, and also health stuff. We want our kids to be active rather than turn into sort of Michelin men in front of the TV. That's most our concerns, really, isn't it, to be honest? So that's the range of concerns. We shouldn't worry about it. There are some other ones, but we can talk about a little bit later on about some very specific ones. But mostly, it's just about motivating our kids to have a range of activities in our life. And like you say, motivating ourselves to motivate our kids. That's the truth here, right?
So I generally find with my children, it's best to sort of give them units of time. So, for example, you can have an hour of TV or you can have an hour on the games console or whatever it is. And then we are going to go and do trampolining in the garden. We're going to go and walk the dog. We're going to go and play this board game so that they know that they have this limit of time, and when that time has come to an end, the TV is going to go off and we're going to go and do something. And I also tend to give them reminders as well. Like I count them down. I don't just say, right, you've got an hour on TV, and then on the hour I go, right, TV's off. I kind of go, right, 15 minutes left now, 10 minutes left now, 5 minutes left now. So I'm counting them down so psychologically they can prepare themselves for the TV going off.
Exactly. So I think there's two processes going on, and understanding those processes make our lives easier. One is structure and routine and predictability. So remember, our kids have come from a highly structured environment, school, where exactly that happens. So they have an hour-long block, at most 2-hour-long block, which is signaled by bells and all sorts of things, and this type of activities, this time, and it's all structured. They know exactly what it is. It's timetabled. So if you can do that during the summer, you'll deal with most of your problems automatically. And you don't need to be overly complicated about it, but you could just literally, I do this. It's a standard cognitive behavioral therapy tool, is to give somebody a diary for the week and fill it in with them and say, this is what you're doing. Okay. And that's it. Yep. Most of your problems gone, to be honest, and maintain as much as possible. There's a habit of falling into sort of going to bed late, getting up late. Try not do that. So just keep that routine, healthy routine. The other thing is what you're doing, and you maybe don't know this, is the blue screen activities. That's what we call them. So computers, television, phones are on the blue screen side of things. And they activate a hormone in our brain called dopamine. And dopamine is an interesting hormone. It's part of the dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, endorphins, which are all reward hormones. But dopamine in particular is a motivation. It's our motivation switch. It's our on-off go, not go switch. And so if you have a series of activities planned, maybe you've got some activities planned that maybe you think the kids aren't going to be that enthusiastic about. If you give them a bit of game time before, you automatically increase their dopamine levels.
Right.
So
Okay.
they're more motivated to do stuff. And so actually it's a really wise idea. This is something I was going to suggest to you, but you're doing it automatically. Most parents will see that impact without knowing it. The other thing to do is to think about the activities you're offering, not as I'm going to withdraw the fun gaming activity and I'm going to replace it with something that's more of a punishment to them. Think about it that what you're doing is, if you think about the hormones, the dopamine, the oxytocin, the serotonin, the endorphins, and you choose activities that will generate those types of hormones, which most activities you get your kids involved with will. Anything group, anything outside, anything involving a meal, etc. These are going to produce these types of hormones. And then your kid won't notice the loss of the phone because they'll already be getting these reward hormones flooding their body.
Right. Right.
So understanding it in that way, you begin to win. So structure, hormones, anything group. And the other great quick win is this. What old fogies like me don't get is that online life for our kids is just a natural extension of their offline life.
Yes.
For me, they're separate worlds. They still are. And I think there always will be separate worlds for me. I do that there and I do that here.
Yeah,
And kids,
exactly.
it's
Yeah.
not like that at all.
No.
And so what they're doing is, that's right. So what they're doing is they're playing online with the same kids they play with at school. And so you come in, you go, get off the phone, let's go play with your kids. And they look at you like you're mad, because you are. Because they're literally playing with their mates. And I'm like, what is wrong with you today? I am. So, but if you know that, what you can do is target your activities to that group of kids that they play with online. So get to know their parents there.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Develop offline real world activities with the same social group, and you're automatically motivating them to want to do whatever it is. You can do anything with them because they're going to see the same friends.
So my daughter is 10 and she's literally in the last month got her first phone.
Right.
It's thrown up. I mean, we knew it was going to cause issues. It's an obvious thing. She was one of the last of her group of friends to get it. So although we weren't going to get it for maybe another year or two, we kind of felt that we had to, because she was being left out. The one thing we're now finding, though, obviously, is when they go into the chat groups, the WhatsApp groups and all that, sometimes, as we know, when you communicate face to face and you talk person to person, you express yourself clearly. And as we know, when you do it via text and WhatsApp and extra, you don't always express yourself correctly as you should. And sometimes we've noticed that there's fallings out in these girl groups, and because they're not expressing themselves clearly, and it's all shorthand, KK, YH, and all of these types of things. What kind of thing could you say to help her understand that?
You know what it's like when she first went to school and it was all very intense, right? And you'd have to reassure her and say, look, you're just getting to know people. Don't worry about it. You'll get over it. You'll make friends. And she'll come back and that's what's going on now. It's the same thing. It's not an alien world. You've got the skills already to reassure and support your daughter and every parent listening. It's exactly the same situation. So she's in what we call a strange situation. And when any of us are in a strange situation, our brain just goes into wobbles. And it's going, I don't have the automated responses. You're like, I now know how to boil an egg. But when I first tried to boil an egg, I got it wrong. But now I don't think about how I boil an egg. I just grab an egg out of the fridge with it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And it's like, that's where she is. She's in that strange, and she's having what's called cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance is when you're in a new situation, the brain doesn't have an automated response. So it goes, oh, there's something wrong. But there isn't. She's just learning. And that brings up another crucial point here, that these online activities, the games, the chat rooms and all that, are learning new skills. Now, while that brings up uncomfortable things and you can reassure your daughter that it'll be fine, the other thing it's doing is it's growing white brain matter. And we want to grow white brain matter, because the opposite of white brain matter growing is white brain matter dying. And what we call that is dementia.
Ah,
That's
right.
literally what
Okay.
dementia is.
Wow. Okay.
Is white brain matter dying. So all these new skills are actually incredibly beneficial neurologically. And so it's really important as a parent to understand that while your kid might be having what you'd expect, anxious, learning new rules, learning new skills, stepping out into, and she's having normal responses to a strange situation, you just reassure her. But actually, it's really helpful for her in terms of neurological growth, in terms of social growth,
Yeah.
in terms of behavioral growth, in terms of developmental goals and milestones. These are really helpful things for her. And putting it in that context, you reassure yourself as a parent that nothing bad is happening. So that's one thing. The other side of it is, you know how you say, you've said this to your girl, I know you have, but you don't need to tell me, but I know you've had these conversations with your daughter, which go, you know, no matter what happens, you can tell us. It's fine.
Yep. Yep.
If somebody comes up and they make you feel uncomfortable, I don't care what you've done. You're never going to be in trouble. I'm always going to welcome the fact that you tell me and then I can help you.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And you do that in the real world context because you know about the risks of your kid getting caught up and manipulated and stuff like that. We'll talk about some of the dark stuff that might happen. But you know the best way, intuitively, all parents know this, the best way to protect your kid is by making sure they feel safe coming to you and talking to them about it, and or another safe adult. Because again, I know the conversation we've had, you haven't told me this, but I know you've said to her, but if you don't feel like telling me, tell your teacher, tell ex-auntie, tell so-and-so, the neighbor that she gets on with, or whatever it is. You don't care, do you? You just want her to feel like there is a safe adult she can go to and talk to, right? I know you've had those conversations. Every parent does it. You have to have that attitude with the online world. You cannot have an attitude that makes your kid feel they're going to get punished if they do something online, right?
Okay.
If something uncomfortable happens to your kid online, you want to know that they'll come running to you and saying, I'm really upset. So the fact that your daughter is telling you about these problems that she's having integrating into this new skill set is something that you should be really valuing her for and saying the first step is always the first bit of the conversation is, I'm so happy you're telling me about it.
Right.
This is brilliant that you're telling me about these things. And at any point, and what that does is it deals with two major concerns that parents might have around access to your kids online by somebody who shouldn't have access to them. I won't deal with that point. So strangers, grooming, all of that sort of stuff. And then access to inappropriate content, you know, inappropriate images, inappropriate body image content, inappropriate self-harm groups, etc., etc. So first of all, to say stranger danger is minuscule, like it is in the real world. It's tiny. Now, the evidence is quite clear on this. We've done the research with kids. Mostly when they meet somebody online, when they arrange a game or something like that, vast majority of times it's somebody they already know in the real world.
Right. Okay.
So it's the same social group and they're just transferring that play, that group online. Secondly, and this is the big worry, when kids arrange to meet somebody new, they rarely do it isolated. It's usually for a group activity. So those odd occasions, and they are odd occasions when an adult has impersonated a child and has arranged to meet another child, they're very, very rare. Most of the time, when they're meeting somebody new, it's somebody new incorporated into the social group, and they've arranged a real world social activity together as a group.
Right. Okay.
The reason is we're social group animals. We're not isolators. And your kids are happy, they're well adjusted, and that means that the first thing they want to do really is be part of a group. They want to fit into their peer group.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah, definitely.
And if you have, and just as a point of information, if a parent is worried that somebody has got access to their child online, they must contact an organization called CEOPS. CEOPS, the Child Exploitation and Online Protection Service in the UK. That's a police service that's specifically designed to deal with. And you just Google that, CEOPS, CEOPS, and Child Exploitation Online, just Google that. You go straight to this police website, you fill in a form, you give them a call, you make a referral, and then bang, instantly on the job. So that's your main line of protection. Okay. So, but in reality, kids are pretty safe and savvy online, and these horrible things are not really happening. It's a minuscule. When it does happen, obviously it's awful, but it's a tiny threat, to be honest.
Okay, well, you've certainly put my mind at rest a lot more than what it was. I won't say it's completely at rest, but it's certainly more at rest than what it was. Noel, I honestly could talk to you for hours that obviously, unfortunately, we don't have. So I want to thank you for your time. I really, really do appreciate it. If people want to find out a little bit more about online safety, they want to find out a little bit more about you, where can they do that?
So get hold of my website, noelmcdermott.net, or if you just Google me, you'll find me all over the internet, unfortunately. So I've got so many social media platforms. And you can just DM me, my email's out there. You can sort of reach out to me with my email, etc. All right?
Noel, thank you very much for talking to me. I really do appreciate it. And I look forward to our next chat.
All right, mate. Have a great day.